Good evening, dear friends. Good evening, Si Mustafa. Good evening, Nathalie Leblanc, Samia Mustafir, Sarah. Hello. Si Mustafa, I hope everything is going well with you. Nathalie, Samia, Sarah, all of you, thank you very much for joining and for making it on time. Sarah is writing. I sincerely hope that you are doing well. Thank you thank you for hosting this meeting. Thank you. I don't know the Sarah who is saying this. I don't know whether this has to do with my master's student or with another Sarah, because the family name is not there anyway. But thank you very much, Sarah, whoever you are. It's a real pleasure to be with you again here and try to answer some of the questions that you might be interested in asking. Okay, today we will try to be somehow focused because we need to cover some of the points related to the questionnaire as a data collection instrument. We hope things will go as planned. Of course, this does not exclude the possibility of answering some of the questions that are probably ad hoc questions in relation to your research or in relation to an academic issue of whatever nature it may be, as long as I can make an attempt to answer your question. Sir Absi Abdeslam, nice to meet you again. Thank you very much. Mr. Karim Boulain, hello. I hope everyone is doing well. I just wonder whether we will have more people or just the 7 people who are watching us here. But whatever the case, we will try to cover some of the points related to the questionnaire today. Now, in the meantime, because more people are joining us, if there is any question that you would like me to react to here, either myself or some of my colleagues and friends here. Thank you. Hello, Faiza. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making it on time as usual. Some of you may have problems, may have issues that need some probably some response, not necessarily from me, but from probably someone who is in a position to answer those questions. Ustada Sarah Al-Allali, hello. Good evening. I hope you are doing well. Thank you for becoming a regular member, follower. You rarely miss these live sessions. Thank you very much. Mr. Shihab Mustafa, hello. I hope you are doing well. It's a pleasure to have you all around, dear friends. So you are not only followers, but I think we are now forming an academic family here where we interact and where we exchange ideas, and when we can, why not, learn from each other. The very fact of hearing a question from a student is a learning opportunity for me. So probably the difference of age, because I am far older, but also probably there is a difference of some experience, perhaps. Otherwise, according to one definition of a teacher, the teacher is a sophisticated learner, no more, no less. And the term sophisticated here is relative anyway. But of course, there is this difference of age. And as we say in Moroccan Arabic, the person who is older, who is one night older than you, is probably one mischief better than you. I hope I have been able to provide a crude approximation of the translation of the Moroccan Arabic proverb. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hamza Sarhi. Hello, I hope you are doing well, Si Hamza. Thank you for joining. Very nice. I don't know whether there's a problem. You can waiting for more people, because I see only 9 people are watching us here. Is it because they have not seen the announcement, or is it because they are busy doing other things? I really don't know. Okay, Mr. Gulmi Matichin, hello. I hope you are doing well. Thank you for joining. Mr. Mohammed Boysan, Dr. Mohammed, Professor Mohammed, hello. I hope you are doing well, Si Mohammed. Thank you for making it to this meeting today. I know that some of you are doing it as a way of encouraging me. Thank you very much. This is really appreciable. I don't think they are learning anything from what I say here, for the simple reason that I think they have the necessary knowledge that. But the very fact of being here shows that there is a lot of respect to my person on their part, which is no doubt mutual respect, of course. But I would have done the same thing with my colleagues, with my friends, if one of them were to be involved in a channel like this one here. So thank you. Thank you also for the, not just for the comments, but also for some of the generously written messages that I receive in private, showing that, what is exposed in the channel is of paramount importance. I heard words like these. I heard maybe more words of appreciation. This is really interesting. So I really appreciate. I mean, this type of. I consider that as a collaboration on your part. Okay. Now, would you kindly insert a question if you have any? Otherwise, I can start without any problem. Mr. Mustafa Moshid, we are proud of you. Professor Amrous, you are doing a great job. Thank you very much. I hope I'm making attempts to bring an addition to the world of academia by means of this window of opportunity that we have, which is this YouTube channel. We are trying to make good use of YouTube, and I think, despite the fact that probably the viewers are few, but I am not here for the high number of viewers. I am not here to make money from the YouTube channel, because the people who would like to make money, and so many people do that, by the way, they can go to private schools and start teaching and gain an extra sum of money. So YouTube is certainly not the place. Okay. Well, anyway, thank you very much. So we have 11 people here. We have no questions. I think I need to start. Mr. Karim Boulain, taking into account that novice teachers find it difficult to design a questionnaire and the majority of students don't include them as appendices, is there a website to find them? What you mean by novice teachers? Researchers, not teachers. It's my mistake. I misread it. Okay. Well, so we have another question by Natalie, but let me just handle the question by Mr. Karim Boulain, taking into account that novice researchers find it difficult to design a questionnaire. Well, so one of the landmark points in a researcher's journey is to spend some time doing some readings. Of course, there's this first phase that can last probably for 2, 3, 4 months. It all depends on how collaborative or how much collaboration there is between you as a researcher and your supervisor. These first months are generally not for the construction of the instruments. They are reserved for formulating objectives, formulating research questions and hypotheses. Of course, when you formulate a hypothesis, a research question, and all this set, let me call it a set, okay, then of course you can decide on the instruments that you will use. When you decide on these instruments, and thank you very much, C. Karim Boulain, for this question. So many students, let me say this loud and clear, or loudly and clearly. It's not wise at all. I repeat, it's not wise at all to decide, for example, on a research instrument, let's say a questionnaire, and jump headlong into the process. That is to say, on Monday evening, you take the decision to use a questionnaire. The following morning, you go to a nearby cafe or any place and you start, inserting questionnaire items. This is certainly not the way to go. You definitely need to spend, I'm not exaggerating, you may spend up to a month or two reading about the instrument and its components, its administration, and its advantages and its pitfalls and possible alternatives. You really need to be equipped with enough knowledge. Where can you find them? They are found everywhere. As long as you consult studies, for example, that you can use for the review of literature, there is a part where they talk about the questionnaire. Some of them go so far as to discuss the advantages and disadvantages and the reasons why they have chosen the questionnaire, because after all, as a student, as a researcher, you need to justify the use of the instrument. Why, for example, this is a possible question. Why is it that you have gone this way and not the other way? Why is it that you have, for example, decided on the questionnaire and not on another task? So these are problems that may arise, but anyway, you can do that for your own sake, because for yourself as a researcher, because the doctorate journey, whether we like it or not, is by far a training journey. So you need to get trained. Rushing into having the instrument ready and rushing into its administration will do more harm, okay, than good to you. They will do more harm than good. Why? Because if the questionnaire is lame, I mean, you know what a lame is. A lame is someone who is not stable when you walk. So the verb is to limp. Limp is the verb. Lame is the adjective, okay? So when the questionnaire is lame, that is to say, it's not well designed, the items do not reflect your objectives, in which case they incur a violation of validity. The questionnaires have not been piloted. You have not taken time, for example, it pains. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this again. It pains to see that some of the questionnaire items are full of mistakes. Imagine the backwash or washback effect this can have on students. By the way, we can say washback, backwash. People use this interchangeably. Anyway, so it's not a good idea. In answer to our friend who asked the question, I don't remember his name, where can you find Sikarim Burain? Where can you find the questionnaire? You find them. There are, studies. There are textbooks. There are books for research manuals that discuss the questionnaire, or that provide an in-depth description of a questionnaire, along with a whole host of ramifications as to, the components, as to administration, organization, and so on and so forth. Reliability, validity. We will try to discuss some of the points here, but you will find them in those textbooks. Okay, there are many textbooks for research. If you send me a private message, as a reminder, I can send you a few titles that you can look for. So this is where you find them basically. Another strategy probably is to consult previous theses, maybe textbooks, or studies on the same topic as you, for example, and look at the appendices where a questionnaire is inserted. But this is an opportunity, Sikarim, and the rest of our friends here, this is an opportunity to tell you that you should not jump headlong into into the process of coming up with a questionnaire and administering it in so short a period of time. You really, as a researcher, towards the end, of course, you should be able to answer the question as to why you have decided on the questionnaire and why you have decided on these items and why you have included items, for example, that a jury member who might think that it's useless, but you have included, or you should be able to, to justify every single step you take in this regard. By the way, this does not apply just for the questionnaire. This applies for any data collection instrument of whatever nature it is, even if it's a qualitative, instrument like an interview. You have to take precautions. You have to, so apart from taking the trouble to read about that instrument and maybe get inspired from other studies to come up with a version of a questionnaire, discuss that version. discuss that version with your supervisor. Of course, the supervisor has to agree. Never ever do it without the consent of the supervisor. But this does not prevent you also from talking to other people, maybe your friends, your colleagues, classmates, in the doctorate program. But you can talk to other professors without any harm whatsoever. Please acknowledge them. So many people don't like to, the fact of acknowledging people. No, acknowledge whoever talks to you about this. Okay, so all in all, the questionnaire, or for that matter, the research instrument, is not as easy as it is often imagined. Why? Because if it's lame, because if it's not done the right way, make sure that the remainder of your study will be equally lame, will be equally inconsistent, and of course your results will never be satisfactory. Your results will never have the required validity and reliability criteria met. All right. So I hope, Sikarim, you are asking a very important question, and I hope I have provided you with some elements of the answer. Just between brackets, for novice teachers, novice researchers, personally, I don't like the term because that's somehow pejorative. That's a bit of a derogatory term. Derogatory. I hope you know the word there. Okay. And it's, I would prefer a more neutral term, the more neutral term, which is a beginning researcher, beginning teacher. Novice shows that the person who says that has some superiority, which will never be the case anyhow. Okay. Novice or not, it's not that you are older that you need to call the other people novice. It's not that you are lucky to be born probably one decade before or earlier that you would we call people. It's not that you are a doctorate degree holder that you will call other people novice. Beginning researcher. What would the difference be? Okay, nice. So thank you, Mr. Karim, for this interesting answer. You said that the majority of studies don't include them as appendices. So here I suggest directly textbooks. And textbooks, books on research methodology. There are a few that are very interesting ones. So again, I reiterate my suggestion that you send me a private message. I will be able to find some for you, inshallah, and then you will go. All right, nice. Nathalie Leblanc is asking the question as to what the pitfalls are of online surveys. The only, look, for lack of an alternative, I would suggest an online survey. But generally, if there is a possibility for you to, do, to collect your data or to administer your questionnaire in a given classroom or in another environment, on paper. If it doesn't harm, if it's possible, please do that. That's a better alternative than online surveys, because there are other factors that come into play. And a survey that is online, yes, we can trust. The principle is to trust. But what if there were people who would like, because they know you and because they don't want to say no, they probably, and they are distracted either by the people around them or maybe by the environment. Not everyone who probably decides to answer a survey. Chances are that there are people who are doing other things and they have their mobiles with them and they will answer. Do you think that they will answer the way they would if they were in the classroom? So this is one of the disadvantages. The other disadvantage is that there is a possibility for people to take time and check on the net or using artificial intelligence to find answers. Maybe. Okay, so that can probably be a pitfall. You see, but the other advantage, the advantage, that's the flip side of it, is that online surveys have this advantage of generating results in real time on the spot, so that you go and you copy and paste and you say, well, I have these results. You see, so as you can see, when it comes to research methodology, there is no single instrument, no single administration method that is all advantages and zero disadvantages. Okay, so it's always a trade-off. But your job, and this is an opportunity for me to say this, your job is to discuss this point in your methodology chapter. When you talk about instruments and talk about the procedure in the administration, if it's online, talk about these advantages of administering online. Say why you have chosen the online method and not the in-class, for example, method. All right. So if there is this possibility of reaching people, it would better because it's more reliable. Because people, I'm not saying that it's 100%, but it's more reliable. I'm not saying it's perfectly reliable, not more reliable. So you are reducing the chances of probably random answers or not well thought out spontaneous answers. Okay, so that's my belief about that. Okay, for obvious reasons. Okay, nice. 24 viewers, 14 likes. Please increase the likes. It takes only a single click. Okay, nice. Natalie has had her question answered. Now, Si Mohammed Al-Zarq, أهلا وسهلا, Mr. Mohammed. I hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for joining us, Si Mohammed Al-Zarq. So kind of you. You are a very good, you see, a very faithful follower because you always show up here. Thank you very much. Si Mohammed Al-Zarq. Okay, so we are done. Si Mohammed Al-Alawi. Hello, Mr. Mohammed Al-Alawi. I hope you're doing well. Nice to see you again, Si Mohammed Alawi. Thank you for joining us. Are you the Si Mohammed Alawi I taught in 2011, I guess? Let me know, please. Okay, are you my student in 2011 or are you another? I don't know. But thank you very much for joining. It's so kind of you. Ustad Darim Siraji, hello. Professor Reem, good evening, dear colleague. I hope you're doing well. Thank you very much, Ustad Darim. Thank you for joining us. As you can see, you have Si Mohammed Boysen, you have Sadarim Sirajin, we have others like other researchers like Samia Mustafir, like Si Mustafa Morshid, and we have others, of course. Some of them are about to finish, and I think I take this initiative of inviting our friends here to their defense. Okay, Si Morshid, I think his defense is drawing really close, inshallah. So I wish you all the best. Thank you, Ustad Darim. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the clapping of the hands, the round of applause. Okay, thank you so much. And again, say hello to our great professor, Professor Siraji. Her dad, her dad is also a professor. Okay, nice. Okay. Si Mohammed Bouissan, how can we operationalize abstract concepts like proficiency, especially if we don't have well-validated? Now, that's really nice. Look at what Mr. Bouissan is saying in this question. You are giving me an opportunity to take some time to talk again. Thank you, Si Mohammed. Thank you. Okay, he speaks Tashlihit and he speaks certainly other languages. Apart from his beautiful and professional English, because I had occasion to, I have had the good fortune of being in his jury, and I had this beautiful occasion of reading his defense, his thesis. Si Mohammed is really, he deserves the position of a professor, which he has, of course, garnered. Anyway, so how can we operationalize abstract concepts like proficiency, especially if we don't have well-validated tests? Can I point out something, my dear friends? Look, we have to be very careful when it comes to this variable of proficiency. When we measure proficiency, so it can sometimes be a dependent variable and it can be an independent variable. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are a beginning researcher and you don't know the difference between the two, please type your question here and I can come back to it. But now, if the question is, now if you take the concept of proficiency as a dependent variable, dependent means the impact of something on proficiency. So proficiency here is a dependent variable. How can you measure it? Okay, so one way of doing it One way of doing it is to administer a test. Usually, when you have proficiency, you can have writing proficiency, fluency and accuracy, proficiency, speaking, proficiency in speaking, but you can also have global proficiency. In that case, you need to design a test that represents the four skills if you can. Otherwise, you may decide to operationalize this concept of proficiency by making it clear that you will measure proficiency by using a test that includes reading comprehension, along with questions, of course, and then a language exercise, vocabulary exercise, grammar, functions, and then writing. Here, what have you excluded? You have excluded speaking, you have excluded listening. Okay, but if you are able to operationalize, if you manage to operationalize, to make it clear that for you proficiency is just this, because after all, we will never decide on we will never model proficiency in any faithful way. You see? So we take these, that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to have access to their grades through an administrative procedure, for example, to ask the administration to provide you with a record of their grades, and then those grades can turn into scores. And here you have measured success to some extent, or successfully enough. All right. Okay, the variable of proficiency. Now this is settled. All right. Question: what if proficiency is an independent variable? For example, there are so many theses, so many studies that try to test the impact of variables like proficiency level, the impact of proficiency level on something, on, on vocabulary size, or proficiency level on on accuracy, probably, or another non-linguistic variable like self-confidence. You see, proficiency level versus self-confidence. For example, the hypothesis is that the higher the proficiency level, the more self-confidence we observe. But how can we measure proficiency level? I need this piece of information to reach our friends here. So if you are a master's student and you are not concerned with this variable at the master's level, then there is like a likelihood that you will be involved with this variable later on. And if you are not involved in it later on, then you will probably become a professor one day, and anyway, that's a piece of information you need to have in mind. Sorry. Okay. Now, when we talk about proficiency as an independent variable, independent means it's the one that impacts, the one that has an impact. Okay. Of course, the idea here is that you cannot categorize students with high proficiency, low proficiency. That's a mistake, because the question is, as Si Mohammed says here, how do you know if the proficiency is high or low? Based on what? Worse still is when some people make a statement like, for example, they say, they classify students just like that, out of the blue, like that. they classify them according to proficiency by saying that, well, I have to make it, I am comparing advanced, intermediate, and beginners. My friend, how do you know? Because saying that someone is classified as intermediate or as advanced necessitates that you administer a recognized, well-known proficiency test to place them. Of course, this is rarely done, because anyway, to buy a test, you need a lot of money. Okay, so maybe the solution here is, instead of referring to proficiency test, proficiency level, you may choose to refer to academic level. Because when you say academic level, you are safe. You are not making any claim in regard to proficiency. Academic level, for example, we have someone, an S5er, I call them S5ers, S5 students. You have an S5er or an S5 student. compare this S5 student with an S3 and compare them with an S2. Am I comparing proficiency? No. Why? Chances are that we have an S5 student whose proficiency, if they were to take a standardized test, maybe they can be equal to, or sometimes lower, or higher. It depends. So we can never tell. So for the researcher to be on the safe side, the use of proficiency is to be abundant in favor of academic level. I am specifically addressing this message to the students who draw their sample from a university or from from an institution where you have levels, you have academic levels. Okay, but if you have enough means to find a way of classifying your sample by means of a well-known test, then that's fine. But this is really unclear. The bottom line is what? Try to avoid a term like proficiency level. Try to avoid terms like intermediate, advanced, and beginners, because you cannot legitimately use these terms unless you have grounds for this use. And the ground for this use consists in administering a test, which is expensive and which probably is not as affordable as we can imagine. Thank you, Si Mohammed, for bringing up this point. It's really, really interesting. Thank you. It's okay. It's worth asking, and it's I'm very glad that you brought this into focus. I don't know. I have skipped some of the. So Mohammed Bouhsan, that's fine. Imanu, hello, Iman. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining. Si Abdullah Lamine, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Abdullah. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining. Natalie Leblanc, in which case a second piloting is necessary. Natalie is asking the question as to when is it possible to administer to go, for the second round in piloting? Well, if it turns out, for example, that the first piloting, gives you feedback that surprises you, for example, in terms of the amount of time that you initially allocated to the completion of these tasks, for example, to the phrasing, if the feedback is heavy from students, if you notice that there are important modifications that you need to enter, that you need to introduce, to the original version, then you might want to think of administering it again just to see whether the feedback will shrink. And but if you have just just some feedback here and there about the form, about probably the font size, the font type, etc., then you can introduce that and administer your main study. And if you have time, there is no harm, because after all, piloting is conducted only on 4 or 5 people. That's very small number, so you will not lose anything. If all that you need is just some extra time, I think it's affordable. All right. Thank you, Natalie. Si Mohammed Al-Zaraq. It is recommended to support the methodology section with a rationale. Yes, Muhammad. Yes. Thank you. You are making a very important point again here. I'm very lucky because I have friends here who help, who say things I did not say. That's very interesting. Thank you very much. So as Muhammad Zaraq says, look, methodology chapter, or for that matter, anything, any step that you take in your research, I repeat, any step that you take in your research has to be justified. This is not a monster, my friends. No. For example, if you decide on a given theory, so you have a rationale when it comes to your objectives, why you have chosen these objectives. That's one way of justifying. That's a very good step. See, that's number one. Why you thought of the topic itself That's a very good way. You need to justify it. Okay. So here we have this section called rational. It's answering the question why. Now, you have, because when you take a topic, you can address it from different perspectives, which means that you can espouse different, you can choose from the whole host of theories that are there. Again, why, for example, the for example, cognitive approach rather than another approach. You see, so you need to justify that. You never ever in a thesis, never ever go and say, well, in this thesis, I will adopt this theoretical framework, and then you go, no, say why, my friend. Show in what respects the theoretical model you are espousing supersedes its predecessors, for example, or supersedes its alternatives. There is, I'm sure there is, wherever there is a theoretical model, it is discussed in the literature. So we'll probably need to include that in a single paragraph, but please do it. Do not forget about it. So that's one example of one step that you can take, with justification. Whether you will go qualitative or quantitative, again, this is a step, a major step in your research that needs to be justified. For example, some topics are more conducive to, research on identity, for example. You see, social identity or just identity, or and learner autonomy. These are more, conducive to a qualitative rather than a quantitative analysis. So you have to say things like these. So if when you choose the approach, you can at least fall back on this point. I give it to you. It's that's a good strategy. You can point to the fact that researchers in the field, or many researchers in this area, have opted for this approach. So this piece of research is no exception. So it's done. It follows this tradition. We are constrained by traditions anyway, even in academia. So these are things that you can mention. But please, whatever step you take, that's the point. Whatever step you take in your research, it deserves justification. Find a way of saying why. Because if you don't say it, make sure that on the day of the defense, people will ask you. You will say, well, you have done this, but you have not justified. We don't know why. You have to tell them why. See? Good. And that makes your thesis more meaningful, more coherent, and more transparent. Okay, the same thing goes for the choice of the instruments, and for the choice of the items, and for the procedure, for any step that you take. That please keep this at the back of your mind. Any step that you take in your research, in the process, make sure that you find a way of justifying it. Okay, be convincing. All right, nice. Okay. More likes, please. 30. I need to see 30 likes because I have 30 people who are looking at me or are following this live. But it's not a condition anyway, just in case you want. Okay. Okay. So instead of adding a like, one follower has gone. Okay. I'm just joking. It's not really, but it would be good, if you it would be better to see more likes. More likes means it's interesting. Less likes, it means that it's not. That's it. All right, Si Mohammed Zraq, thank you for this point, this addition. Thank you very much. Kingdom of Animals, you have not shown up since we were discussing syntax, since we were discussing the empty categories. I remember, in case filter. I remember, you were asking questions about that. All right, thank you. We have Awatif Bilqaid. Awatif Bilqaid is probably joining for the first time, I guess. I don't remember this name, recurring among the friends here, but let's read what she has written. Awatif says, I've researched on the place where I live, Prof, ask us to make it by getting information about the history and the population. Okay, could you please give some advices? Okay, some advice to get that information, please, Prof. I suppose that Awatif is a licensed student. You can prove that Awatif because these types of topics are suggested at the license level. So her professor asked her to conduct research on the place where she lives. The prof asked us to make it by getting information about the history, so the history of the place, the population, etc. For the history of the place, I don't know what place there is, but anyway, just in case, Awad, if there are associations, cultural associations in that place, in that city, just go and ask them to help you if they have information, if they have documents. You can interview one of them, someone, for example, who has a degree in history. They can talk to you about the history of the place. There are associations like that, cultural associations that care about the history of the city and the historical monuments, and they can tell you a lot about those things. These, it's very interesting to consult with these people. For information about the population, number of people, probably if you are talking about the number, there may be local authorities, but this means that you need an official document from your institution so that you will do things the legal way. Okay, you need a permission. There is usually this permission sheet at the different universities that you can fill out with the signature of your supervisor so that you can go and ask for the information. Okay, but this idea, of course, you can do some internet search. Okay, also that can help, especially if there is a reliable website. But anyway, I suppose that Awatif is at the license level, and at this license you can do this. Don't aim for large-scale research. Probably your professor would like you to go through the process, okay, so that you produce something. It's a good exercise for you, and I wish you all the best, Awatif. I wish you all the best, really. But history, just try to focus on one thing, because even focusing on history, unless you intend to be very sketchy, very short, that's fine. But try not to include a lot of aspects, especially if it's because I made this assumption that it's a licence research paper. Okay. Thank you, Awatif, and good luck to you. Si Mohammed Zaraq, seeking feedback from colleagues and, if possible, experienced researchers, field testing. Thank you. Let me make this point. Si Mohammed Zaraq, thank you very much. You are just making me remember. I don't know if I am allowed to mention their names, but there were two ladies. I would say that they were very impressive. We met at a conference in Meknes, Wal Ismail University, and these two ladies, very hardworking ladies, they are doctoral students. I listened to their presentation. I followed their presentation with a lot of interest, and they just amazed me. As they did to the other professors, and they were very amazing. Everybody appreciated them, and they were conducting this research, which I think was conducted for the first time in the country, in Morocco. It's the investigated collegiality among doctoral students, and this is what is lacking, because I told also my master's students, I keep talking about this big problem among doctoral students. So if there is an explanation to why a lot of theses are submitted with a lot of mistakes, of course there are, okay, let me use this other things being equal, there is this factor of problems relating to collegiality among students. Let's give it a try here. You don't need to answer, but in the place where you are, wherever, this is more for doctoral students. I challenge you, if you tell me that you know what every single member of that laboratory if you know what he or she works on. Oh, sorry, let me say it this way. No. So it's highly unlikely for you to know what everybody works on. Everyone who has a document hides it. I don't know why. They don't want to show their progress. They don't want to show anything relating to their instruments. إلا من رحم ربك. There are people who are very collaborative, I'm sure, but these unfortunately have become an exception. A long time ago, shall I say my generation? No, even my generation, we were like that. You see, we were like that because different people were in it was a specific case in our case, but a bit earlier. I remember in my fourth year, for example. Fourth year means my licence. I remember wherever there was a thesis defense, a doctoral thesis defense, personally I would go and attend. At the level of the master, I would do the same. I would get in touch with the people, even if they are older and maybe more advanced. I would get in touch with them and ask them questions. If they answer me, that's fine. If they don't answer me, that's fine. You see? And this helped me a lot. I will not hide it. A long time ago, look at this. This stopped somehow when I was doing fourth year. There was this spirit, I remember. Later, I think it was on the wane because, different people have gone different ways. Some of them found jobs in the private. Some of them got married. Some of them, got married and forgot about the work altogether, the thesis altogether. Anyway, look, collegiality is a very important, element that can help you progress, towards producing an outstanding piece of work. Feedback from friends, exchanging documents, exchanging advice. This is very interesting. And this is what the two ladies investigated in a very nice way. We talked, and they said that they are ready, probably because I was intending at that time, before I started these live sessions, to record probably an interview with them. And I will still go back to them if they accept, and if they have time, and if they accept, I can interview them so that they can talk about that presentation. They can summarize that presentation to us, which is likely, of course, to help in probably changing that mindset. People have become more and more individualistic. They just want they want to work, to do something. The supervisor says okay, will say okay, and the defense will take place, and nobody knows what the other person has worked on. It pains to see that there are thesis defenses where there is no colleague in the doctorate program who attends, someone and his family and the prof he likes. So that's all. Where is this community? Especially that there are some universities where there are a lot of doctoral students. Why is it that they don't attend? You see, let me tell you one thing. Believe it or not, and you can try this, try to visit, at least at the Faculty of Letters, try to visit, but this was everywhere. Try to visit the library and consult theses that were defended in the 90s. There are so many, you see. There are high chances for you to find a reference like so and so, yani Mr. X, so and so, and then you have between brackets, and then you have the word in prep, means in preparation. Why has this disappeared? Do you see that in current theses? No, you don't. It means something has changed. It means collegiality has gone another way. You see, you know what it means to say, for example, you are colleagues, either under this, working under the same, so under the advice, or with the advice, or being supervised by one professor, or you may have different supervisors, or you may be at different institutions. You see, people were so collaborative that they would not copy, but they would, they would cite work that is in progress. How beautiful this is. How good. How nice it is as a sign of collaboration. For example, I can say more sheet in prep. While I talk about something relating to world English is more sheet in prep. Very interesting, isn't it? Okay, so this is an issue. This is an issue that needs to be addressed. People are, I don't know, if there is a conference they go, they don't spend 2 days to talk and to listen to other people presenting and to learn from their mistakes. No, they would just come and present, what they are presented, and they look for the certificate, and then they take the first coach or whatever, train or whatever. And the ones who stay, who spend the night in the city, for example, they don't, they present and they go to sightsee and to to visit the monuments of the city. اللي يبغى يدير présentation يدير عن طول يعني. But that's not a good habit. That's not a good habit. We cannot you cannot imagine how much you can learn from other people from attending these events. You see, it's really amazing. The consequence, the outcome of this is really amazing. When you work individually, you will stay the way you are. And I know people, unfortunately, do you think you will be happy academically when you work alone and you have just this strict minimum? Because working alone will lead you to the strict minimum, whoever you are. And later on, you probably will find a job at the university and start teaching, and you will always be on the defensive. You will always be, unable to leave your comfort zone, and you will be someone who is just that average. And this is not good, of course. This is not good. Discussing and sharing with colleagues will give you advantages that you would not, no matter how hard you try, that you would not get just on your own. After all, research is never done on an individual basis. Okay, so thank you, Silsra, for seeing feedback from colleagues and, if possible, experienced researchers. Yes. So that's what triggered this point on my part. Si Mustafa Morshid, you have kindly, inserted that title, questionnaire design, interviewing, and attitude measurement by Oppenheim 92. Thank you very much, Si Mustafa. So just in case you are interested, there is the title provided by Si Mustafa, who always has this generosity of helping people, both here and I heard that he helped so many people elsewhere, also outside of this life of mine. You have another, document there. It's questionnaire design, interviewing. Also, we saw that. The second one is questionnaire in second language research, construction, administration, and processing by Zoltan Dornier. Okay, who passed away last year. And Dewale, I'm more familiar with Dornier. Nice. So this should be a very interesting document. You see, questionnaire in second language research, construction, administration. You have to read this. And by the way, as you read, you need to report, to document, this reference. It's very beautiful if you do that in your methodology. You refer to the people who talked about that instrument. It's better than coming some theses. Unfortunately, you know what they do? Some researchers in their theses, they just say, well, in this study, a questionnaire was adopted to tap students' students' attitudes towards blah, blah, blah. And then you have the questionnaire has this number of items, this number of items, this number of items. They were submitted to a reliability test, etc. But then, there is no, solid background or solid ground for its adoption. So it's good, it's better when you mention the authors who talked about this before. So like for example, these documents that Si Mustafa has had the kindness of writing here in the comment. Thank you very much, Si Mustafa. Thanks, Professor Siadnan says, for your efforts. You are welcome. Faiza has retracted the message. Probably she will type it again. Sikarim Bulain. Okay, wait a minute. Sikarim Bulain. Okay. What's happening? What's happening here? Wait a minute. Sikarim Bulain. I noticed when administering surveys in papers, the respondents can miss checking some items, which leads to having missing data. Yes. Now, Sikarim, just imagine. So if students miss or they don't check, okay, they don't check some items which will result in a missing data. Where is it likely that they will leave some questions unchecked? In presential or when they are online? If this happens, when you administer that on paper, what will happen when they are distracted by other things, probably listening to music, watching a film, or having dinner? I don't know. Some of them work just with the mobiles. They have more chances for being distracted. Now, if they do not take the appropriate choice, this can also be, imputed maybe to the phrasing or to the timing. Some you don't give it enough time, and sometimes there is this factor of, just imagine you go into the classroom, to a classroom where it's for example mid-May or the beginning of May. It's very sunny, and maybe the temperature is somehow high, and students studied in the morning, and they have had lunch, and they are in a classroom with a subject that they are not really comfortable with. So these factors will certainly influence their. So what is the why am I saying this? The implication is that you need to choose a moment where you can visit the classroom when you think that the students are are most comfortable. You see, so there are a number of factors. It's not due to the fact that you have administered a paper version, okay, Sikarim, but because there are probably other factors, including the fact that you did not make provision for the timing. Some students, might, if you think that the questionnaire can be filled out in 10 minutes, there are students who will barely read the first half in half an hour. You see, so and if the questionnaire is stuffed with questions, that can also be a factor in having. But it's normal to have some. I mean, not all of it. Some missing data, because there is one way of remedying this state of affairs. Okay, nice. Si Mohammed Alawi, what is the optimal number of questions to include in a questionnaire? That's good. And what is the maximum recommended time allocation for respondents to complete? Thank you. Very important question. So we have a two-pronged question from Sir Alawi here. One relates to the number of items in a questionnaire, the number of items in a questionnaire. And for that matter, in any research instrument, will heavily depend on your objectives, on your purpose, and more specifically, on the number of variables that are represented in the items of the questionnaire. So if it's just two items, then I will tell you, let's say that you have one dependent variable, one independent variable. Attitudes versus motivation. Okay, we have two. Now, for attitudes, you cannot capture this in just one single question, like, what is your attitude? This is not the way to go, for sure. So we said that yesterday. We probably resort to some indirect questions, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 questions. 3 is too, 3 questions are too few. So probably you can aim for initially at 7 questions or 8, okay, to represent one variable, for example, from question 1 to question 8. So you have 8 items, and you have the other variable of, so if the first one is attitude, the other one is for motivation. Motivation, again, It's not whether you are motivated or not. No, you need to capture this in terms of or by means of a number of items. So maybe another 7 or 8 items. So you end up with 16 items here. Plus, of course, you need to ask them questions about their this for demographics, gender, age, academic level. Okay, these are generally questions that you find at the beginning. So here, why am I saying, or why have I said 8? Because probably with 8 items, after you run the Cronbach Alpha, the reliability test, maybe the model will suggest that you delete 1 or 2 items. So if you end up with 6 items, that's so much the better. So this is an index, the indication of how many items is not it's not just a decision that we make a priori. No, it's related to the number of variables, because if you decide, for example, on a short version and you have items, maybe 1 or 2 items for motivation and 10 items for the other variable, which is attitudes, then of course this is not commensurable, because you will not be able to compare the two, because it's not good to compare the incomparable. You see, so you need to have some sort of balance, not necessarily with the exact number, but balance. You cannot compare 2 items with 8 items. So it's good to bear in mind this very important factor of how many variables you have, okay, in your thesis, in your study, that need to be reflected in the questionnaire. Now, sometimes you have a study where you have, apart from the questionnaire, you have other instruments. So sometimes we design a questionnaire just because we have one single hypothesis that calls for information gathered by means of a questionnaire. In that regard, maybe the number of items can be fewer. So it all depends. That's my answer. This is decided by your intentions, and which are decided by the number of variables that you have. Fine. Okay. Now, in terms of length, maximum recommended time allocation. Now, in terms of length, length again is relative. Why? Because apart from the taking into account how many variables you have, length can be gauged by piloting the instrument first. Before piloting, you can do the pilot on your own. You can start yourself. You see, put yourself in the shoes of a student and read relatively slowly, try to answer. And then when you produce the initial version, you try it on 5 or 6 students, and you will get feedback about the time. No worries. But nobody would come and tell you, no, it should be 15 minutes, it should be 20 minutes, it should be. No, not at all. But we may all agree, I'm sorry, I have to branch the computer. Give me one little second. I'll just bring this cable here. Okay, fine. Nice. So now for the time, this again will depend. But the questionnaire, look, a questionnaire that is, we said that yesterday, we are just repeating it. A questionnaire which is stuffed with information is not a good questionnaire. A study that relies on a questionnaire with so many items, so many, to the point that I remember there was a researcher, who presented us at that time. We were students with 24 pages. 24 pages, including questions like you answer, you say yes. No, you say yes, you move. But when you say no out of good faith, you say no. What are some of the factors that have blah, blah, blah? So here people, because they have these types of questions, they take yes just to avoid the follow-up question. And there were questions where we were asked to write paragraphs. That's too much, isn't it? That's too much. So you have to be, student friendly, respondent friendly in your questions. Please, this is very important. Try to think of the other side, because what happens? What happens to some researchers? They are overambitious at the beginning. They are overambitious. A questionnaire has to be a questionnaire. Okay, they think that it's decided in terms of how long it is and how the maximum number of items, which is not the case, of course. You see, so that's the point. So the amount of time allocated to a questionnaire is relative, and the number of items is equally relative. That's the bottom line. This is, of course, seconded with the advice that your questionnaire should not be stuffed to the point where the student will barely answer the first quarter, or they will start just because they respect you and they don't want to say no. They will close their eyes and start ticking just like that. That's not a good thing. We don't want this to happen. So thank you, Mr. Bulain, or Sibulain. Okay, I reiterate my thanks to you, sir, because you contributed. Si Mohammed Alawi. Yes, so I hope I have provided you with elements of an answer. Thank you. Muluk. That's a very nice name. So, Muluk. Good evening, Professor. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Muluk. This is the first time I see this name. I'm sorry, but all right. But that's a nice name anyway. It looks like in the picture you have some veil there. I don't know. But anyway, that's a random picture. But thank you for joining. It's really interesting to have more people, more friends here. As Raji Mubillah, Mubillah, she said that because I greeted the great Professor Raji, her dad. So a professor giving birth to a daughter who became a professor. That's really nice. So her dad is both her colleague and her father and her friend, because I know the relation that Professor Reem has with her dad. Allah يحفظه inshallah. Okay, Ikram, good evening, dear Professor. Good evening, Ikram. Thank you for joining again. You are very motivated, so keep motivated. This is interesting. Thank you. MGCFGG. Okay, yeah, I remember this friend here. I remember this friend here. MGC. Wait a minute. I think she is Fidwa. I think our friend here is Fidwa, but I don't know. Okay. So my professor, who supervises my research, asked me to look for the article entitled EMI, English Medium Instruction. My question is, where can I find it? Okay, please, MGCFGG, send me a message. I will see if I have it in the folders I have. Please, that's the solution. That's where I think I can provide you with something related to that. Okay, I need a private message so that I can transfer the document to you. Okay, thank you. Asma, Ahlan Asma Narjis. Asma Narjis always comes with a round of applause, and today she has added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, around 7 flowers. Thank you very much. Thank you. Really nice. See Mohammed Boysan. Thank you, Prof. It's clear. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Thank you. Okay, so we have again. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Asma, again, a round of applause. Si Hamza Bilbaraka, a heart, showing admiration to probably what we are doing. Thank you very much. And we have Sarah Al-Alali. Ustad Sarah, dear Professor, would you be kind enough to host a live session on designing semi-structured interview? I would be very soon. Let me put it down here. Designing semi-structured. So we will talk about interviews in general. So interviews, and then I will, I will let you know. I will post the announcement, and I will come back to you to discuss this, inshallah. Awatif, thank you so much, Professor. You are welcome. Professor Siraji says students ought to be sensitized about the importance of collegiality if they want to succeed. It's not just success, but also development. People are talking now about personal development. On your own, you will not develop the way you would when you are among colleagues, of course, who collaborate. Thank you, Professor Reem. Yes, sociable students tend to excel academically and socially more introverted than socially more introverted. Yeah, that's absolutely the case. And of course, they are also characterized by the breadth of knowledge that so many people will not have. Just imagine over the course of 4 years or 5 years, some people spend 5 years, 6 years, on a thesis. Just imagine you attend conferences and thesis defenses on a regular basis, and you meet other professors and you meet other students, and you have all that beautiful input, that academic input, in terms of the language, the content, and also the breadth of knowledge. It's pointless later on, for example, to be specialized. Just imagine that you are a specialist. You conduct your research on motivation, let's say, and whoever talks to you say no, 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 Anna, motivation. Come on, you have to have an eye on other things. And how can you have this knowledge? It's by attending events, by talking to people, by taking part in discussions. It's a pity to see, to conclude that so many students believe that it's a waste of time. هذا هو المشكل. You send him or her a message saying that there is a defense taking place, and sir, they apologize. Don't apologize. Why are you apologizing? It's not anyway. It's not a must that you attend. It was just for you to be informed, so that you would go and take place. Take a seat and listen to what is being said. There is no better way of learning. Not better. There's no better. I'm sorry, I'm exaggerating. But listening to jury members talking about I'm not saying that all of them are right, but sometimes you can be critical when you listen to a jury member. Sometimes you can show implicit disagreement. You can just between yourself. Sometimes you can hear. Look at this. You can hear a piece of information or a word or an expression from a jury member, and that should that might give you some motivation to check that information or that word or that expression. This will teach you in a remarkable way. You see, try to attend these events. Why are they made public? Why are thesis defenses made public? Don't wait until you are invited, because the rule is that they are public. Everyone can attend. So attend and listen. You might even you might choose to take notes and to retain a piece of information you can discuss with other people. That's how you develop, my friend. But being aloof, I don't know if you know this. Some of you don't know this probably. Aloof, A-L-O-O-F. You say to keep aloof, or to hold aloof, means that you decide to act on your own. You don't want to join a community. Research is a community. I insist on this. And you will learn only when you are in the community. Those people who decide to single themselves out as though they were more important, maybe because they have a job somewhere and the others do not, maybe, and they have this sense of superiority, and they always decide to isolate themselves, believing that they are better in some ways than the others, which is, of course, not at all true. Okay? I insist on this. I have spent probably more time than I should talking about this specific issue, but that's the way things should be said. Thank you very much. Okay. Natalie says, working in group encourages personal growth. That's absolutely right. So Ahmed Merto says, thanks, Professor, for such initiative. You are most welcome, Ahmed. Thank you for joining us. Thank you always for always being there to encourage, with your comments and with your likes. Thank you for the page. I read all the comments and all the likes. And by the way, this is just something you want to say in passing. Some of our friends, I know, but they write, in private, they send me messages where they are making, putting in very good words in favor of this idea of holding live sessions, saying that they learn a lot, but they decide not to write a single comment. This raises eyebrows. Is it because they don't want to be noticed that they are, is this channel and what we are doing to that extent stigmatized so that people will not notice you typing down? I really don't know, but Or sometimes people meet me in person and they say, well, you are doing a good job. You are doing a good job. But when I say, why didn't you, كان حرجهم كيدخلوا, why didn't you insert a comment if it's a good job? You see? So that's something that I want to say just in passing. But anyway, people are free. People are free. There is not no requirement. It's not a requirement to act in any way here, in any specific way. Lalla Malika. Before that, we have Sirotman, je pense. In the case of research investigating the impact of teaching strategy on students' speaking and writing skills development, are tests appropriate for measuring instruments, or I can do with post survey? All right, Sirotman, I think this needs some attention. Ladies and gentlemen, would you kindly go to what Si'utman Bukhzar has written? Let me read it out aloud. In the case of a research investigating what? The impact of a teaching strategy on students' speaking and writing skill development. The question is, when you have this, the impact of a teaching strategy on the skills development, writing skill, are tests appropriate measuring, or can I do with post-survey? No, post-survey here will not be a powerful, a strong enough way of collecting your data, because you are making it clear in your title and in your objective. That's what I can see. You have the impact of a teaching strategy, of a teaching strategy, and its impact on students' written production or writing. Ideally, for this one here, you probably need a quasi-experimental design, okay, where you have, for example, one group you see being taught in the classical way in strategy X, and another way, another group being taught in using strategy Y, okay, and then you will see if there is going to be any difference between the students' performance on the pre-test and the post-test, and then you compare. Okay, so this is one logical way of going about doing things. But if you want to test this impact just by means of asking questions as to whether you think, because I know what you are driving at here, Si'utman. In the questionnaire, for example, you will ask questions like, do you think that your teacher's strategy, your teacher's explanation by moving his hands like that, has improved you in writing? The student will never be able to give you a truth there. So the truth needs to be discovered by you by conducting a quasi experimental study where you need to control certain variables and see whether there is a difference between the two strategies or not. Doing that on the survey, but this is contingent on you running this study, this analysis first. If there is a survey, it's going to be just complementary, but you should not rely on it to answer your research question and to prove or disprove the hypothesis, to reject or to retain the hypothesis. Okay, so Othman, thank you for pointing this out. I hope I have given you elements of the answer. Thank you again, Asma Narjis. Thank you so much. Lalla Malika says, good evening, Professor. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Lalla Malika. Thank you very much. Very glad you have joined us. Really nice. Natalie says, each item should focus on one aspect to avoid confusion or misinterpretation. Well, this will depend on, because some variables are composite, Natalie Leblanc. Some variables are composite by nature. Composite means what? Means that they cannot be captured in terms of just one element. So some variables necessitate maybe the use of a number of items, let's say 5 or 6 or 7 items just for one. Okay. Otherwise, if there are some discrete variables, of course, yes, of course, if each item in that case, if you have nominal data, for example, nominal categorical data, then of course you have question 1 for this aspect, question 2 for the other aspect. That's possible. Okay, but we have different types of variables in this regard. Natalie, Jasmine, I don't know Why you, is that something you, is it just your name or it's a comment? I don't know. That type of weird creature that Jasm has inserted. Okay, Serajirim, 24 pages are like a punishment. That's true. I felt there was a punishment because I was hesitating between giving up. I could not give up because that person had some at least moral authority on me because I was anyway. I had to fill that out. Okay, good. Ahmed, how many participants should be recruited in a questionnaire in a minimal? Wait a minute, Ahmed. Okay. I don't know. Ahmed. Yeah, Ahmed. Ahmed Mertu says, how many participants should be recruited in a questionnaire in a minimum way? I mean, the minimal number of participants in a questionnaire. Well, it depends on the your target population first, because if the population is very big, like for example Moroccan EFL learners, and if you intend to run descriptive statistics, then you probably need to increase your sample size. No specific number, but it's at least from 100 on, and this will depend on whether you are in a doctoral project or just in short article or whatever. But you can go to 120, 200. This will all depend. There are a lot of factors that can dictate on you the number of items. If it's, for example, but this will also depend on whether you will analyze it qualitatively. If many more questions are qualitative, then maybe a sample size which is reduced can do better, because at least you will have the opportunity to analyze qualitatively each individual question. Okay, and if you are running inferential statistics, for example, then you can have some sort of 60, 80. That would be good. Okay, again, there is no specific number. Some would go up to 500, 600. That's too much. Okay, that's too much, especially if you run inferential statistics. Because sample size can impact the results sometimes. Okay, nice. See, Mustafa Murshid has retracted the message. Natalie, a questionnaire should make it easy for respondents. That's true. It should be respondent friendly. Just as we say that the computer has to be user friendly, the questionnaire should be respondent friendly. Si Mustafa says, by the way, I highly advise people to follow every single piece of advice provided by Professor Amrus in these live sessions. I guess that I have almost integrated everything he has told us so far. Thank you, Si Mustafa Murshid. This only reflects how much or how grateful you are, and I don't assume that I impacted you in any way, but it feels good probably to take some advice into account. So thank you very much. I'm really happy that you made some use at least of some of what I said. You said everything. Okay. Thank you, Si Mustafa. Thank you. My thesis, and I believe it respects the requirements of a good piece of work. Inshallah, I'm sure because you apart from the advice I give you, you are already someone who is vested in research and who masters the craft of research. You have been a full-time researcher. You have been dedicated to what you do. I met you in a number of events, and this only translates your interest in more knowledge. I wish you all the best, see Mustafa, with what is coming up. Okay, see Mohammed Zaraq, a good job, Mr. Mustafa. All the best, inshallah. Teacher Muhalish, thank you, Professor. Thank you, Teacher Muhalish. Thank you. See Mohammed Zaraq is saying something here. Mohammed Zaraq, the questionnaire language should be concise. Very interesting. Very interesting. أنا نجي نقول لكم شي حاجة هنايا. The issue of wordiness, yes, and comprehensible. Yes. A student, one of my master students, some time ago, was working on translanguaging. And one of the questionnaire item says, do you agree with the use of translanguaging in the classroom? And this question was directed to to high school students. How on earth do you want a high school student to understand what the translanguaging is? You see? So we have to be very careful when it comes to the phrasing. You really need to avoid all sorts of technicalities. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, look, even if you conduct, and this is something that some students fail to understand. You may be a researcher, conducting your research, your research at a laboratory, that uses English. So you write your thesis in English. You studied English for your life at the university, etc. But sometimes, as a researcher, there is this possibility. For example, just imagine you have a questionnaire directed to junior high school students, junior high إعدادي, and you are a doctoral student and you conduct research on junior high school. There is nothing that prevents the translation of or the wording of your questionnaire in Arabic or even in Darija. You see, you can write in Darija. You can write of course if they are Arabophones, but Darija is understood everywhere anyway. As long as you have a high school, a junior high school student, he can understand Darija anyway. So you can write it even in Darija, it's fine. Why? It's because you're not looking for their understanding of the items. No. Just ask questions or in standard Arabic where you can use simpler words, etc. In French, it's unlikely for a typical junior high school student unless they study in specific institutions. So, if it's public high school, then either Darija or, because in English they are unlikely. I'm just giving you an example of the fact that sometimes it's good to translate so you have to take your audience into account. Translate that, write that in Arabic. There is no harm. And you can say that in the methodology, and you have an opportunity for justifying something. Okay? You have an opportunity of saying that you have opted for the phrasing of the questionnaire in Arabic because, at this level, students do not understand, probably do not seem, there is likelihood that they don't understand English, let alone technical words and some processes. So it's good to think of doing this way. And this brings me back to the point of raised by Sidi Mohammed al-Zarq, which is very relevant, which makes a lot of sense. Let me reread what he has written. The questionnaires language should be concise. That's number one. Concise means call a spade a spade. Don't turn around the bush. Don't write too, long sentences to explain, to ask a question. Okay, a question that is worded in a bombastic question. Okay, we say something is bombastic means there is a lot of wording or a wordy question, right? So comprehensible for that, because our aim is to get information, so we should not block them from understanding what we are after. MGCFGG says, yes, I am Fidwa, so I think my memory functions, well enough. Thank you. Mohammed Al-Alawi says, thank you so much, Professor. You are welcome. Mustafa, thank you, Mr. Izraq. Thank you. Natalie, how can we make the survey more interactive and avoid monotonous questions? Monotonous questions, Natalie, in a survey, by making them to the point, by avoiding wordiness. People, if you put yourself in the shoes of the respondents, you see people are more likely, to keep motivated to continue, filling out the questionnaire when the questions are intelligible and they are to the point and they are short. Okay, so that's how you can do that. Natalie. Okay, and monotonous questions are the questions that that are unnecessary, they are monotonous. So, by the way, there are some people who, because I understand it, it's out of good faith, because they are over ambitious, they include in their questionnaire more than they will need. Why am I going to include to ask students about pieces of information I will not use? علاش? Just like that, because the questionnaire has to be. Or are you afraid that the jury members will tell you, well, you have just 2 pages? No, that's not. Sometimes you can have even 1 page. Okay, so yes, the phrasing and only questions that are necessary, of course. Natalie says, golden advice. Thank you. Sarah Mufki, my master's student. Hello, dear professor. Hello, dear colleagues. I truly hope you're doing well. I wish to express my profound gratitude and honor to be able to attend this live. Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you. I know you are someone who is keen on attending events in general. I think this student, Miss Sarah Mufki, is a student. And I have noticed that is someone who just tell her that there is a defense somewhere, and she will be the first person to attend it and the last person to leave. And she takes notes and she interacts. And on many occasions, she can come and ask me about, and I'm sure she asks, other professors, of course, specialists specialists in that field. But this is very interesting. I mean, this is a very good habit, and when you keep it like that, then the outcome will be good. Sarah, together with the 2 or 3 other ladies, they have consistently been attending all those events, and they don't attend only because they want you to see them there. No, they come because they like it, because they find pleasure in doing that, and they find this as a learning opportunity. So this is really nice. Just keep up. Okay, thank you. Uthman Bukhzar, thank you, Professor. Your answer was very pertinent, and that's exactly what I have done in my methodology. I hoped for a non-random pre-test and post-test. Yeah, that's exactly the point. Otherwise, you will fall in what we refer to as incommensurability. Okay, it means that your objectives are going left, and the way you answer them is going right. So the way you try to measure the ensuing hypothesis going right. So I'm glad that you did this, Mr. Uthman. I wish you all the best. Thank you, Lalari. Thank you so much. It's really kind of you to say this about your colleague. Thank you. Light FF, best professor ever. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yunus, Jigi, Salam, Ramadan Mubarak to all of you. Ramadan Mubarak to you too. See Yunus, thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, Khadija Bilghazi. Good evening. I hope you're doing well. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what are the steps to follow for contrastive analysis? Well, for contrastive analysis, who is talking here? I think it's Natalie. Natalie, yes. Natalie is asking about the steps for contrastive analysis. Number one, for a contrastive analysis, you need to, someone who is working on something related to the differences between language X, language Y, for example, the mother tongue and the target language, and you are looking for mismatches. The person doing this is not involved only in this comparative study, but he or she is involved also in analyzing 2 languages, which gives more value, of course, to the work. Okay, so here, Natalie, you probably need to, if you are involved in a contrastive analysis, generally you cannot do that without instigating some, the process of looking for the relevant articles, the relevant studies that were done on language X, language Y. Despite, you should not, here, you should not look for theoretical sophistication. In the case of Moroccan Arabic, you can consult a book like Harel's book, well known, where you have probably a description of Moroccan Arabic, and then you can compare that with English. And of course, for English, studies are likely to be more abundant. abundant. But in Moroccan Arabic, you can still, if you find some sort of gap, things, data that you did not look for, that you looked for but you could not find, you can still, because you are a native speaker, because so you can use your introspection to produce maybe the relevant data. And you, again, here, when you use this way here, you need to mention that in your methodology, okay, just to be comfortable. Um, well, for contrastive analysis, all that you need to do is probably find data that is similar data. For example, if it's a list of nouns here, a list of nouns here, a list of plurals in this language, a list of plurals in this language, and then you try to compare, for example, to point to the differences, and you comment on them, and you test the process of acquiring, those maybe items like morphemes or vocabulary items. I guess Natalie is working on idiomatic expressions, I guess. Anyway, that's on idiomatic expressions or collocations. I don't remember, but it's something like this, and it's not easy. It's a very challenging topic, but it's still feasible. And I know Natalie is in a position to do that, given what I know about her as a competent student. Okay. By the way, Si Mustafa says, I would like to thank my friends Mohammed Boysan, Samia Mustafir, Atimat Shilko, Buknifi Mohammed, and Shihab Mustafa. Yes, these are the yellow click. This is the yellow keep. Yeah. Look, you are ideal there, guys. You're ideal because most often I see you together. I see you talking very positively about each other. I see you also helping each other. This is really interesting, and this is exactly why all of them, because I happened to talk to Usada Mustafir, and she looks, someone, she seems to master, the research craft, and she asks questions that are really asked by someone who is very experienced in research, and one cannot reach this level without being a member of a community. So this is a very nice. You are an example to follow, ladies and gentlemen. Mohammed Azraq, guessing and social desirability are two major issues that require careful consideration. Absolutely, yes, yes. You're talking here about questionnaires. Sometimes people just guess, they are not aware of what to say, and sometimes, yeah, that's true, because when you say to someone, do you respect your parents, for example, how likely it is it okay, how likely is it that they will say, no, I don't, and then I have problems, and no. So that's the thing, sometimes we have to be careful, in phrasing our questions. There are some elements of the answer that we access in an indirect way. Okay, so thank you, Mohammed, for this point. Sarah says, thank you so much, dear professor. Your words are truly motivating, raising my ideal L2 self. Inshallah. So I wish you all the best, Sarah. Yeah, يقولوا لكل مجتهد نصيب. This is very interesting. I mean, it's good to see people interested in knowledge, in learning, and not in just looking for shortcuts. The worst that can happen is to look for shortcuts. You should not have this excuse that, for example, a master's or a doctorate research is very difficult. Don't think you are intelligent when you see mountains and you try to go cross country, to maybe reach the other point. No, that's not true. Because in conducting a piece of research, there are certainly difficulties, there are certainly hurdles, and it's up to you to face the challenge, and that's what a good researcher is. Of course, if you find everything the way paved, and even if when you get the diploma, you will still be lacking in a lot of knowledge. Let's face the fact. Okay, this is nice. Okay, so Natalie says vocabulary. So I remember also your topic. Natalie is great. I confirm, Si Mustafa. Okay, Natalie, thank you, Mr. Mustafa. Yeah. He will soon abandon the status of a doctoral student to become a professor, inshallah. I wish you all the best. All right. Yeah, Samia Musafir Alima. Yeah, she is. Yeah. Yeah, she is knowledgeable. She's accomplished at a lot of things. This is really interesting. I mean, a profile like this one is just amazing. Okay. Nice, Uthman. In factor analysis of questionnaire items recommended for checking construct validity. Now, construct validity, you can check it. I mean, you can. There are a number of ways you can check validity. One of which is probably the statistical analysis. But for construct validity, it's just you can very simply evaluate, the items of your questionnaire, whether they reflect the construct that you purport to investigate. You can tell. I mean, it can easily be detected if there is a problem of validity. This can easily be detected. All right. But for reliability, you need to run Cronbach alpha to see if all the items contribute to, the measurement of a given variable. Okay, I think we have talked enough about the questionnaire, even if so much of what I had to say here has been discussed here. I mean, so I don't think I have much left to say about the questionnaire. Well, maybe when it comes to the types of question, you have multiple, sometimes you have multiple questions, multiple choice questions. When do we have multiple choice questions generally? When you have nominal data, because you are asking someone to tick the respondent to tick, for example, I prefer, for example, let's just hypothesize this question, I provide a hypothetical question. I feel better when I am, in a classroom where I am taught the following subjects, and then you have composition, spoken English, grammar, and the student is asked to take. This is nominal data, so you can do that by multiple choice questions. Sometimes with ordinal data, and I don't know because I have been talking about the difference between nominal, ordinal, and ratio data. I can still bring that up. So for this type of data, which is ordinal data, usually what we have is a Likert scale. Likert scale is a scale that consists of not four, sorry, 5 or 7, or sometimes 3, but it's rare. The ideal is 5. 5 is an odd number. An odd number means if you divide it, it will give you 0.5. For example, 7 gives us 3.5. The other numbers are called an even or even numbers. So a Likert scale is a scale where you have, for example, strongly agree. We have strongly agree, and then you have neutral, and then you have disagree, and then you have strongly disagree. How many do I have here? 5. So when I have strongly agree, and then I have the middle point, which is neutral. Here I have 2 before, and I have 2 after. So this is what we refer to as a Likert scale, and it's generally used when we want to, measure ordinal data, ordinal variables. So you have this you are most likely to find this when you measure, when you use the agreement scale, strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree, or when you measure frequency. For example, you have always, sometimes, usually, often, rarely, you can order them in the right way, of course, but you have, in Likert scale, we usually have an odd number, so that when you take the middle point, you have 2 elements before, or 3, the same number of elements before as after. Okay, and of course you have what we call open-ended questions. We talked about this. We just need to reiterate this again here. You see the Open-ended questions generally are qualitative, because in an open-ended question, what you do is ask the student to respond to the question, to which he will answer or she will answer in the form of a paragraph. And you, as a researcher, you will not code that numerically. No, you will take what this respondent has said, and you will maybe look for pattern or do discourse analysis or analyze the phrasing, or even if it's something about acquisition, you can locate the mistakes. So this is where you can use these open-ended questions. Okay. And of course, there is this issue. Sometimes there are questions that are ambiguous, and we talked about this. It's good to reiterate this in another way, or in other words. Sometimes, you start or you set off with, well, let's talk about needs analysis in ESP research. ESP means English for specific purposes. Some people, I saw a number of candidates at interviews, during interviews, and you ask them questions how you manage to get your data. And then you find out in their thesis, for example, that they have used a questionnaire where instead of conducting a needs analysis, they ask the students, what do you prefer to study? What do you need to study? What do you prefer to study? Is this needs analysis? No. These are wants or preferences, and these are different from needs. So one has to be careful, when you measure constructs, they need to be measured in an accurate manner, because what happens is that, and that's the risk that so many students can run. You see, your intention is to run a needs analysis analysis. You administer a questionnaire just to see, I don't know, but you should not end up asking people what they prefer, what they like, because that's not needs analysis. That's maybe wants, an analysis of wants or preferences or perceptions, but not a needs analysis. So we have to be very careful when it comes to this type of issue. We also have issues of validity and reliability. I think we have talked about these two enough. Validity is just asking the question as to whether the questionnaire investigates what it purports to investigate. Here we need to think about operationalizing our construct, and how can we operationalize our construct? By having some readings, and you are adopting a given definition, because usually those terms have different definitions. You take one and you adopt it, and you mention its component elements that need to be reflected in your questionnaire. Okay, so we can talk about content validity, construct validity, but you can also talk about face validity. Also, questionnaire has to have face validity. Face validity means that the questionnaire has to be visible, has to be readable, and it should look like a questionnaire. That's what it means. Okay, piloting. We talked about the piloting stage. It's always good to try, because through piloting, when you piloting, for those of you who have just joined us, piloting means that you administer your questionnaire. You administer your questionnaire to a small group of people that will give you, the respondents will give you feedback by saying that it's difficult, by saying that it's easy, by saying that sir or madam or miss, or we don't have time, we could not finish it, because that's some feedback that you have received, and when you take it into account, you produce another version that you produce another version that can work. Okay, as Natalie said, you can repilot anyway. It's a good idea to do that, because it's not time consuming, not money consuming. It's good to pilot and pilot again, just to make sure that before you administer, the main, before you conduct the main study, you will have solved a lot of problems. Of course, there are certain ethical considerations that need to be pointed out. Please, ladies and gentlemen, try not to run the risk of conducting, a questionnaire at institutions without taking the necessary steps. For example, that like having permissions. Your institution have models of permissions that a number of people have to sign, including your supervisor. You present the host institution with your permission, and along with another document like an application, whatever. You see, but do it the legal way, and there is no harm. But not there is no harm. I mean, this should be in the appendix. These documents, should appear in the appendix. That's how we show that we are ethical and we have observed this ethical requirement. Of course, do not coerce students, like threatening them. If you are a teacher, if you don't fill the questionnaire, you will have -2. That's ethically not good, of course. And of course, that is likely to maybe bias your results. Okay, so the probably what is left here is a little discussion on the limitations of using a questionnaire. Of course, a questionnaire is not everything. There are certainly, certain purposes for that require the questionnaire, but there are other types of objective research questions that are more, that make more sense when you use the data from other instruments. For example, a questionnaire can be used when you want to evaluate a program. For example, you distribute a questionnaire to the students just to see if they, you ask them different questions. Again, these questions, even if I say different questions, these different questions should reflect your objectives and your hypotheses, of course. But if your aim is to evaluate a given program, then maybe one of the most relevant instruments is to collect this information, or the relevant information, from or by means of the questionnaire. Also, when you want to describe a person's experience, of course, you can tell me that this is even better when you conduct an interview. I would say yes, for an experience, because it's subjective, it's a personal history. You might want to delve into the respondent's academic trajectory, just to see, identity trajectory. I mean, just to see what factors there were that influenced his journey, etc. I mean, but you might use questionnaire as well to describe a given experience. For example, like the experience of maybe being taught a given language. You can, I liked the teacher, I liked the pronunciation of the language, I liked the fact that I was doing exercises, etc. That's possible also. And the questionnaire is also a good choice when you want to tap or to when you target opinions and perceptions. They are ideal. Questionnaires are ideal, of course. Okay, or when you want to conduct or to collect information about a specific type of behavior, you can conduct a questionnaire, despite the fact that here a questionnaire is almost equivalent to quantitative analysis. Typically, not always, but typically a questionnaire is quantitative, despite the fact that it can include qualitative questions. I mean, like open-ended questions. They are qualitative, that you can analyze separately. But a questionnaire is a questionnaire only because there are questions. I mean, the predominant, the items are predominantly quantitative. Okay, nice. I'm afraid I have exhausted because we talked enough about this issue of the different, points relating to the questionnaire. Okay, suffice it to tell you at the very end of this live session that now we have to be very careful, and that research instruments need to be taken seriously. They need to be discussed, and we need to take enough time to, number one, to make our choice first, because choosing between this and that will depend, of course, on your work before. But we also need to take into, so we need to take into account, of course, what we said in the objectives and the hypothesis, that's for sure. But also, we need to take enough time to write down the items well after we have decided on whether we adopt or we adapt or we construct our own questionnaire. Whatever you do, it has to be mentioned and it has to be justified in as clear a fashion as possible. That's the point. Okay, so we have Natalie, Likert scale questions, collect ordinal data using rating scales with 5 or 7 points. That's exactly the point, Natalie. Thank you. So we have Hiba as well here. Thank you, Hiba, for joining. I didn't know you are here. Nice. So this is really nice. So she is a brilliant master student as well. It's a pleasure to have you here and to take part in, to comment with that nice phrase there, polite and nice. All right, Real Madrid بالعربي. Hello, professor. Please keep the video for the future. Yes, it will be there. I think I will have playlists later on when I have enough time. Playlist for Arabic videos because I intend to broadcast more also in Arabic. And I will, have, the live rubric. When you go to the page, there is a rubric called the live. It's there where you find, these videos saved. Okay, very nice. Noel, Ahlan Noel, Ahlan. That should be Noel, my master student again. Good evening, professor. This is so fruitful. Thank you so much. I'm very glad you like it. Thank you, Noel, for the encouraging comment. You always insert comments of this type. Thank you so much. This is really kind and generous of you. Ahmed Martu says, Professor, could you please tackle something related to data? And yeah, that for sure. I have one problem that I'm trying to solve. Otherwise, I would have started. I think we will have that in Ramadan, inshallah. I have an issue with sharing the screen. Because I have examples that I need to expose, and we will go on a piecemeal basis. So I'll try to find some time to fix this issue, and then, yeah, of course, we will do data analysis, quantitative and qualitative as well. Yes, Natalie, some respondents may express lack of interest, that's for sure, that in case the items are not well phrased, in case they are not given a respondent-friendly version of the questionnaire. Thank you, Si Mustafa. Thank you very much. Thank you, Faiza. Thank you, she says, for the valuable information. Barakallahu feek. Thanks, Professor. People are thanking me as an indication of a farewell, I guess. Well, we can still afford some minutes just in case there are questions. I don't know how, the 2 hours elapse. You see, so quickly, I've been talking practically for a couple of hours nonstop, but I enjoyed this. For me, this is just like a habit, or it's not for any other purpose than this. It's just a hobby, not a habit. Oh, sorry, it's more of a hobby. It's good to interact, good to share the ideas that are appreciated by some people here, but by many people, by many of our friends here, to whom I am so grateful, of course, because they keep encouraging me. And some voices maybe, are not in favor of holding these live sessions. I could sense that because they anonymously send me messages saying, Professor, do you have time for these things? Let me answer you. And I'm sure they are listening here. Yes, I have time. Why do I have time? Because I don't spend my life in private institutions collecting money. And that's the thing. So I'm exercising a hobby. Okay? I'm exercising a hobby, and I have time because apart from my teaching and my research and my other responsibilities, I have this hobby. See, and I don't go to private sectors, to the private sector to teach. Voila. And those who criticize me for this, are the people who spend too much time in the private sector. That's why they don't have time for this. I'm sorry to say this because I heard some criticism that necessitates this response. Okay, Karim Ain, Jazakallahu khairan. That's what you wanted to say. Okay, Professor, it's highly appreciable indeed. Thank you very much. Welcome, Si Karim, Si Adnan, loads of thanks, dear Professor. Nawal, could you please, loads of thanks, dear Professor. That's thank you, Si Adnan, thank you. Nawal, could you please have another live on how to work on interview questions? Yes, someone asked me before, and you are the second one, Nawal, which means which means that probably I will see, because tomorrow, I will have a full day. Anyway, it will be announced. It's either tomorrow or after tomorrow. We'll hold a live session on this, inshallah. Okay. Kingdom of Animals. If you'd like, sir, I can fix that for you next time, inshallah. But I don't know where you are, Mr. Kingdom of Animals. Reveal, show us who you are first. But thank you. It's very generous of you if you could help me with this. Thank you so much. I wanted to, have a streaming software, but it's just a question of time. I don't have enough. I have not had at least enough time to do this. So if you could offer this type of help, I will be so much grateful. Thank you. Hamza Salih, I really enjoyed the live. I'm very happy you did. Thank you so much. واش بعدا كتبارطاجيو هذا الشيء ولا غير كتخليوه تما وصافي؟ Share, because if you share, you will not lose anything, and I will not gain anything. So share. That's all. That's just one way of motivating, me to go further in these things. Okay. Mr. Fahd, thank you so much. Now I have revealed your identity. Thank you, Mr. Fahd. Thank you. So I'm very glad you are with us here. Thank you so much, Ustad Dareem. And with this, probably you are 32 still watching me here, which means that we can afford some more probably minutes if there are questions. Barakallahu fikum, Ustadi al-Kareem. Loads of things. May Allah grant you brilliance and success. I do really appreciate your live sessions, although sometimes I couldn't manage to attend some of them. Never mind, see Abu Bakr. So whenever you can attend, it's a real pleasure to have you with us. Otherwise, you can access the page later on and go to the live rubric where you have live, and then you have all the videos. I have not deleted any video at all. Okay, thank you, Natalie. The last thing to say, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, Nawal. Allah yakhtik. And Barakallahu fik, Mustafa. Exactly. Some people view this in another way, but let them do that. Okay. So thank you once again. Thank you. And I wish you all the best. Maybe it's time for us to take, to attend to other things, of course. And let's meet, inshallah, tomorrow. And I hope, because tomorrow I have a full day, but, expect an announcement on the Facebook page. Please subscribe to the Facebook page and subscribe to this YouTube channel for better, for more motivation. That hones the motivation so that we can continue, inshallah. Nuni Nunus, this is Ines. This is Ines. I know, not Nunu Nunus anymore. That's Ines. Okay, thank you so much, Ines. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Samia, for the nice word. Barakallahu fikum kulshi jami'an. And have a good night, and I wish you all the best. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.